Hi, welcome to Subtracting Fractions. The focus for today's lesson is to subtract fractions with different denominators. So my learning objective is to subtract fractions with different denominators. There are some key vocabulary I want you to take note of. Numerator. Now the numerator in a fraction is normally the top number, and the denominator is the bottom number. Now, subtract is when you take away something from a group. There are three success criteria that will help you in subtracting fractions. The first is that you can write the multiples of the denominators. The second is that you can also find the lowest common multiple, which is normally the LCM. And the third is that you can even rewrite the fraction with the new common denominator and then subtract. Just a couple of things to take note of. The first is always start by finding the lowest common multiple of the denominators. The second is to note that to keep a fraction equivalent, whatever you do to the numerator, you do the same to the denominator. And the third, when you have worked your subtraction, always subtract the numerators, never subtract the denominators. So how do we go about doing this? Subtracting 7/12 minus 1/4. Now the first step is to find the multiples of the denominators 12 and 4. So come with me to the right hand side for us to do that. Now multiple just mean times table. If you know your times table, you can easily quickly write this down. So the multiples of 12 are 12, 24, and going. I'm not going to write all of them. The multiples of 4 are also here. Now I can see there's a 12 here and there's also a 12 here. It's a common multiple between them. So I'm going to use that 12 as my new denominator for my fractions. So I'll now have 7/12 as is here, and also here I have 12. Now I'll ask myself, since this is already a 12, so I'll have nothing to do with it, or I can just say 7/12 times 1 will give me 7/12. But let's come to the second fraction. Now I have to ask the question, my denominator has become 12. So what did I multiply this denominator by to get 12? And you can see from my multiples is times 3. So 4 times 3 gave me 12. So I have to go to the numerator and do the same thing. I'll do 1 times 3. So 1 times 3 will give me 3. Now I have a denominator of 12. Remember, we never subtract the denominators. So the denominator to my answer will be 12. But if I take away 3 from 7, I'll end up with a 4. So I now have 4/12. Now there's something, when you get your answer, always check if you can simplify it. Can I simplify this? Yes. I can simplify using prime factors. Now the prime factors of 4 are 2 times 2. And the prime factors of 12 are 2 times 2 times 3. Now I can see that 2 over 2 I can cross out to be 1. And then there's a 2 over 2 again, cross out to be 1. So what I have now as an answer is actually 1/3. How did I get 1/3? I have 1 times 1 equals 1. And at the bottom, I have 1 times 1 times 3, which is also 3. So my simplified fraction is now 1/3. This is the second one. How are we going to subtract this? 1/3 take away 1/7. Come with me. Let's write the multiples of 3 and 7. So multiples of 3 are here. It's just a 3 times table. And multiples of 7 are also here. It's a 7 times table. I haven't done all of them. I can see there's a common multiple. There's a 21 here, and there's also a 21 here. So 21 is now going to be my new denominator for both fractions. So I'm now going to write 1/3 as with a denominator of 21, and then 1/7 with a denominator of 21. Then I ask myself this question: what did I multiply 3 by to get 21? I can see is 3 times 7. 3 times 7 is 21 here. So I must do 1 times 7. 1 times 7 will give me 7 for my numerator. And I'll do the same with the second fraction. Now, what did I times 7 by to get 21? And I can see 7 times 3 is 21. So I have to do the same with the numerator. I have to do 1 times 3 to give me 3. Remember, we never subtract the denominator. So my denominator is still 12. We only subtract the numerators. So 7 take away 3 will give me 4. So my answer is 4 over 21. Can that be simplified? No, I cannot simplify that. So that's my answer. Now what I want you to do right now is to pause the video and do this so that we can check the answer in the next slide. So pause the video right now and do this. How did you do? Now we were given the fraction 5/6 and we are to take away 2/9. Now the first step I said was for us to find the lowest common multiple of the denominators, 6 and 9. Now the multiples of 6 are just the 6 times table that are here. And the multiples of 9 are here. You can see I haven't written all of them for a reason. I can see there is an 18 here, and there's also an 18 here. So this 18 is a common multiple for both denominators. So it's now going to be my new denominator for my fractions. Then I ask myself, what did I times 6 by to get 18? I can see is 6 times 3, that gave me 18. So I have to do the same with the numerator. I have to do 5 times 3. So 5 times 3 will give me 15. Then I do the same with the second fraction. I ask myself the question, what will I times by 9 to get 18? And I can see 9 times 2 gives me 18. So I also have to do the same with the numerator. 2 times 2. 2 times 2 will give me 4. Remember, we never subtract the denominators, so I still have a denominator of 18. I only subtract the numerators. So 15 take away 4 will give me 11. Can this be simplified? No. So my answer is actually 11 over 18. What I want you to do right now is to pause the video and then do the questions. Now, when you go to the activities, the mild is S1 and is on page 1. The answers will be on page 2. Please do not look at the answers before doing the questions. I want you to do the questions first before you look at the answers. The activity for the medium will be on page 3. And again, do not look at the answers which are on page 4. Do the questions first before you look at the answers. And likewise, the hot. The questions, activities for the hot are on page 5 and the answers on page 6. Now, just to check your understanding, I want you to call a guardian. If they are busy, a sibling, call one of them, choose one of the questions that you did so well and show them the steps that you followed. Just as a reflection to our learning objective. Now, were you able to write the multiples of the denominators? Were you also able to find the lowest common multiples of your denominators? Were you even able to rewrite the fraction with the new common denominator and subtract? If you were able to do that, well done. You can now subtract fractions with different denominators.